So, Susan, welcome. I am so excited to talk to you this morning about your upcoming talk for us on the Speak platform. And I'm just going to go over to you to say, what's the title? What inspired it? And really, what do you want people to take away?
Well, Eve, I am absolutely delighted to be interviewed by you this morning and to be part of Speak. Um, I feel very humbled to be able to tell my story. And my story is entitled Bringing My Family Back to Happiness. And it basically outlines the disastrous time I had thinking I was a bad mother, thinking I hadn't read the book right for my children, because I literally shouted every morning. I used to lie in bed and think, I'm not going to shout today. And within 30 seconds, I was on the back of my eldest again. And yeah, so it was basically a very tough time for all of us in the family. For me as a mother, I used to drive around, in my work day, thinking, how can I make this easier for everybody, especially my eldest son, because no matter how much I shouted, no matter how much I said, you're not going to the disco, or you're losing time on, I don't know, PlayStation or whatever, nothing ever made a difference. And so, you know, you worry for the future, Eve, and you think to yourself, well, if he hasn't got consequences now when he's 8, 9, 10, 11, I finally sorted him when he was 12, how's he going to hold down a job? How's he going to hold down a relationship? How's he going to bring up his own children if he has any? And so as mothers, I think especially, we think to the end. We don't just think in, day to day and minute to minute. We think to the end, and we worry and everything. And yeah, and then my second son, he turned out to be dyslexic. I hadn't a clue because he was that smart, he was covering it. And I mean, I find a solution. I went out and I just decided, right, you know what? I am going to find out what is causing this, because they weren't bold children. They weren't naughty. But my eldest just couldn't conform in a classroom, and my youngest couldn't write a sentence in P6, which was whenever he was age 10. And yeah, I decided to find out why, and got to the root cause, and didn't accept that coping strategies and management plans were going to do it, because they're coping strategies and management plans. They're not actually dealing with what's going on with the brain, and why don't they have consequences, and why can't they read, and why the eyes aren't working properly, etc., etc. So that was sort of my start of my journey.
Yeah, I have to say the thing that my takeaway was the way you described the aha moments,
Mm-hmm.
just in terms of, our children can't, it's like dealing with an infant. Where does it hurt? They can't tell us. They know that they want to do well. You share a story, and I'm not going to give away the whole talk,
No.
but you share a story of your son's relief. As a young man. What was he, 12?
Well, yeah.
The
Mm-hmm.
rest of my life doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
What you made me honor in that moment is the way 10, 11, 12-year-olds are already, we think globally, but they're already thinking about, is it always going to have to be this way? So thank you
I
for that
know.
aha moment for me.
Yeah. And Eve, I say to parents now, we think we're the only ones that worry. I have 7-year-olds that are saying, Mom, definitely not working right. Something definitely going on in here that just is not right.
Yeah.
So yeah, as a parent, I was driving around the country worrying, but he was sitting thinking, is this my life? I really try and it doesn't get any better. And
Yeah.
that was worrying him. But as you say, he was never going to come to me and say, Mom, what's the deal here?
Yeah.
Even food, which I don't mention, actually, I haven't mentioned, but food, when he was 15, having done the exercises and everything, he came to me and says, Mum, stew, meat, beef stew used to smell like a farmyard to him.
Yeah.
You never told me that.
Yeah.
I just thought everybody else smelled it the same way, but everybody else liked it.
So one of my reasons for pulling this talk together, navigating uncertain boundaries, borders, boundaries, and identities, comes from my life here as being an other. I was an immigrant all of a sudden, and I didn't understand the language. Let's not get into lift. And anyway, I just did not understand the language. And I also didn't understand the culture. And what my takeaway from your talk is at the mother end of the scale, how much we're at cross purposes with our children in not necessarily understanding the language they're using to describe what the issues are, but B, culturally, we have not been trained to understand what you just described about the beef stew. We experience everything from sights, and neurodiversity is now in the news.
Mm-hmm.
But it has always been thus, and we have always written off the others. So I'm excited to have you introduce us to this micro level of the ring, and what we as parents and educators can do to change that.
Mm-hmm. Because that is the thing. I mean, I didn't know why my son was going, Mom, no, please. Right? I actually thought he was looking at attention. When you think of it, Eve, it's dreadful. I thought he just wanted a dinner made for him, just to get attention, because our brains are always throwing in the, could it be this? Could it be this? Could it be this? We never come up with, he's not wired right. His sense of smell isn't sending back the right signal. Or for Peter, that his two eyes were actually jiggling, because whenever a child's looking down and reading, we can't see what their eyes are doing. But we never are gonna come up with the fact that the two eyes are working against each other and sending back a mixed, confused signal to the brain. And they're not gonna say to us, Mom, but the words are moving about. Because again, Peter obviously thought, well, they're doing this. This is the way words are on a page. Everybody sees it this way, but everybody else can work it out. So I must be stupid that I can't work it out. Why would he think anybody sees anything any differently if this is always the way he's seen it? So yeah, getting to under the spade depth, as I call it, the spade depth below everything as to why, what's the root cause to all these things. It's so exciting for us, and
the other piece that you pointed out that I think doesn't get enough attention is immediately when children, infants, toddlers are developmentally delayed, we go in with all of these interventions. The problem is with the really bright children who figure out how to compensate. And I certainly experienced this in my own children. And again, as parents, we are not educated to understand that there are differences in our children's IQ, the way they perform, and how bright they actually are, like what it looks like on paper and how bright they actually are. And one of the really interesting complications for me was that they choose their friends based on how smart they are, not on the grades they're getting. And then when they're not performing in the educational institutions, they become ashamed. And again, we're down to the mental well-being of our adolescents, especially. So again, another reason I'm very appreciative of your talk. And here's the part that I love. Remind me again what your young men are working at these days.
Well, my eldest works for me, and he is providing this program for other families, and it's brilliant because he was that child. So therefore, he's never going to put a child under pressure. He knows what it's like to sit in that classroom and not get it. you know, not understand what the teacher's saying, not be able to prove his intelligence because it doesn't process quickly enough for him to get his hand up. So he knows what that's like. And my second son, who couldn't write the sentence when he was a 10-year-old, went on to be a surveyor. He passed his HNC with a distinction, handwritten, and he has now decided to come and join the company as well.
So
So
I really, one, I want to congratulate you in the mom department. I maintain it's the worst job in the world because the jury's out for so long and we never get performance reviews. Like you have no idea. So I love that you chose bringing your family back to happiness for a title, but I'm even more excited about the way that the healing is such that you're now all in this together, bearing witness to the journey.
absolutely, and bringing happiness to other families. And I mean, as far as my boys are concerned now, I mean, they're not boys, they're 30 and coming 28. But many's a time they would say to me, Mom, like, where would we be if you hadn't found that program for us?
Yeah.
And so I haven't had a problem all through teenage years with my boys growing up. And we're a very close, such a close unit that they now want to work for me, which I take that as a big sense of pride. I know you're not supposed to be proud of things and stuff, but actually the fact that they both want to do that is immense. And they just see the results that we're getting and they know what it did for them. And they just want to help provide that for others. So it's great.
Well, again, I can't thank you enough, and I look forward to your talk on November 7th at the Spirit Store in Dundalk. But more importantly, it will be found at speakevent.com on their YouTube channel and their podcast. So thank you so much for joining me on this journey.
Thank you. Thank you, Eve. It's a wonderful journey, and thank you for putting it all together. Your work is immense. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.